Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Almajestar deck profile. This is one of the new decks we got out of the Dragon Tree Invasion booster pack. It's a deck that focuses on being able to Soul Blast and then bind a bunch of critical triggers and then gaining all the following abilities based on the number of critical triggers in your bind zone, making it the main focus for your setup for the deck, being able to place all of the many different critical triggers in your soul for you then to Soul Blast out to utilize for all of the different plays. We'll definitely be getting some more support for this deck in the form of the Mask unit. That'll be sort of like a different grade 3 version that you can Persona ride on top of this card. But until we get set 10, we'll be focusing on what we have to work with from set 9 and all the previous sets. Let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the ride deck for our grade 0. We're running Almajestar Pipis Mulchi. When rode upon, if you went second, draw a card, the standard starter for D format. Our grade 1 is Almajestar Schwart Sparta. When this unit is rode upon by Almajestar Tyrandina, you can soul charge 2, and if a critical trigger was soul charged, draw a card. And on rear, once per turn, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, bind a trigger unit from your soul, and it gets plus 10,000. You really don't use the rear guard skill for much, but you have your setup for your soul, and then the copy of Almajestar Tyrandina. When rode upon by a unit with Astrea in its card name, choose an Almajestar Schwart Sparta from your soul, and you can call that card to rear guard. So you have the one copy thanks to your ride deck, but the bind critical option can come in handy for the rear guard to set up some of the other triggers when you have your other soul blasts, with your main go-to grade 3 in the deck being Almajestar Astrea Unica. Along with the copy we are running in the ride deck, we're also running 3 additional copies in the main deck. On the Vanguard Circle, when a trigger unit is soul blast for the cost of this unit's ability, choose one of your units and it gets plus 5,000 till end of turn. And on Vanguard Circle, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, Soul Blast 3, bind all critical triggers, Soul Blast for this cost, and perform all the following according to the number of critical triggers in your bind zone. If it's 1 or more, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. 2 or more, it gets a critical +1 until end of battle, and 3 or more, this unit gets drive +1 until end of turn, so the end of battle. So you'll have the pressure thanks to this unit having triple drive, the additional critical, and also potentially taking out either a pesky back row unit that your opponent may have, or one of the interceptors that they could have used against this unit. And also having your rear guards or any of your units get +5 every time a trigger is Soul Blast just adds to more and more power this card can build up. For the grade 2s that I run in the deck, I run 4 copies of Kit's Peak Griffin. With this card, when this unit's placed on rear guard, if you have a Vanguard with Almajestar and its card name, choose 2 trigger units from your drop zone and put them into your soul. And on rear or guard circle, if your bind zone has a critical trigger, it gets plus 5,000 power and also the plus 5,000 shield. So you have the option for you to be able to choose 2 trigger units from your drop zone and just place them into the soul for the added power that you can use with this card and all the setup that it can provide for those critical triggers that you have in your drop zone. For some of the other grade 2s, also running 4 copies of Clean Sweep Dragon, once per turn. If you Persona Road this turn, counterblast 1, choose up to a total of 3 of your or your opponent's rear guards, and you and your opponent put them into the chosen rear guards into your own souls, and this unit gets +5 until end of turn for each card chosen by this card effect. This card can just take out your opponent's cards, your own cards, setting them up in your own soul, but also just getting rid of a resource that your opponent may have needed on the field just for the cost of a counterblast, and if you Persona Road that turn, just being a once per turn. So it can already be on the field, and then you just utilize that one counterblast with this card. I also run 3 copies of Steady Spiky. When placed on rear guard from hand, counterblast 1, put a grade 0 card from your hand to the soul. Choose a grade 1 card from your soul and put it into your hand. So this card can give you options for your sentinels that were maybe accidentally soul charged to be able to be placed into your hand in exchange for placing some of the critical triggers that may be in your soul, your hand, back into your soul for you to reuse for cards like your Vanguard. It's just that added setup. You really don't use counterblast for much aside from your grade 2 cards that we run in the deck. So you have your plays with your Steady Spiky and your Clean Sweep Dragon to rely on those counterblasts. And then moving on now to the grade 1s, I run 4 copies of Alarm Capricornus. When this unit boosts, if you have a Vanguard with Almajestar and its card name, choose up to one trigger unit from your hand or drop, put it into your soul. If you put a trigger unit from your hand, you draw a card. So it makes up for the card that you may have put from your hand, but giving you that option for you to choose the trigger of your choice from your hand or drop zone, and just putting it into the soul by just having this card boost a Vanguard with Almajestar. So it's definitely your go-to that you want to place behind the Vanguard to always have that set up for you to use. And I also run 4 copies of Inhale Pit. With this card, once per turn, you can Soul Blast 1 grade 1 or greater card, choose 2 grade 0 cards from your drop zone, and put them into your soul. So with your soul, along with the grade 1 that you'll have for your option to call out to rear guard, you'll also have your Tyrandina and also the Soul Blast grade 1 greater card as the target for you to use for your Inhale Pit. Or you'll be able to also Soul Blast any of the additional Astra Unicas that you build up into your soul thanks to your persona rides that you'll be doing. It's a once per turn Soul Blast, but it also just gives you more of those 2 grade 0 cards from your drop zone for you to place into your soul, on top of cards like Alarm Capricornus, which can also place cards from your hand into the soul for the exchange of a draw. This card just gives you that additional soul charge power, which is what this whole deck is meant to do. Set up grade 0s in your soul for you to Soul Blast out with your Astrea Unica. And for some of the other grade 1s in the deck, 3 copies of Steam Battler Gungram. One of the times you really hope you do soul, charge a critical off of Gungram. If you don't, you're just setting up other cards that you can potentially Soul Blast out for you to utilize with some of the triggers that may be in your drop zone. Gungram is just a when placed, Soul Charge 1. You have the Soul Blast 3 option to draw a card. You don't necessarily have to use the skill. It's just here as an added backup play if you need some draw in your hand. With the last of the grade 1s just being 4 copies of Repelled Malice Dragon if you wanted to run Elementaria Sanctitude as an added blitz order to stop some of the triple drive unit pressure plays in other decks. You can do so. I'm fine with the 4 Sentinels in this deck though for the lineup that you may go up against, and for our only order in the deck, the 1 copy of Gradius Gradel. So you have that Persona Ride option because you have to play the activated Persona Ride to use other cards in the deck like your Clean Sweep Dragon. And moving on now to the grade 0s. We're running 7 critical. I even considered running 8 just with how important they are. If you were to do so, you could just increase the number of Flinty Slasher that we run in the deck and take down one of the draw triggers that we run to run the full 8 critical altogether. But you definitely want to have maximum critical in the deck, with our next spot being the draws. Like I said, if you want to run an 8th critical, you can just drop 1 Riley for another copy of the Flinty Slasher critical. With our heal trigger lineup being 2 Alexandra, 1 copy of Direful Doll Charmaine, and 1 copy of Brilliant Flora Luania, with our over trigger being Galmagaheld for the additional pressure that it can provide to your Vanguard when you drive check this early on in the game. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy. Like I said, it's a very awesome deck that focuses on a playstyle we haven't really seen in Vanguard, utilizing the, brilliance of being able to soul charge triggers and have a play set up for your Vanguard to use. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.